Hey everyone, I'm Dan, and welcome to Disney Decoded. Most people watch the Festival of Fantasy Parade and see characters, music, and color. And that's exactly what Disney wants you to see. What they don't want you thinking about is the 52-foot fire breathing dragon with a chassis that literally bends as it walks. Or the 90-foot finale float that moves as one continuous unit. Or the fact that Cinderella's dress is spinning like a turntable underneath her the entire time. So today we're pulling back the curtain on how Disney builds a parade that works more like a rolling Broadway show than anything you've seen on the street. Festival of Fantasy debuted at Magic Kingdom on March 9th, 2014. Built specifically to celebrate the expansion of New Fantasyland and bring those stories out of the park and onto Main Street. But here's the thing that makes it stand out apart from every other parade Disney had built before. The creative team behind the parade famously described it as a mini Broadway show rolling down the street. That framing matters because it completely changes how you think about what you're watching. A traditional parade, that float is essentially a decorated vehicle moving from point A to point B. Festival of Fantasy floats are self-contained performance stages. Each one has its own soundtrack here, its own choreographed performer zones, its own mechanical effects running continuously, and its own lighting synchronized to the music. There are nearly 100 performers in a parade, plus 40 animated and sculpted character figures. Costumes were created by 10 different design houses across 8 cities and 2 countries. We're talking 27 custom designed fabrics and headpieces that were digitally sculpted and 3D printed. Let's go through the engineering highlights float by float. The Princess Garden float leads the parade at 50 feet long. The standout engineering detail here is Cinderella's dress. It rotates continuously like a turntable throughout the entire route. That kind of constant mechanical motion on a moving vehicle requires a drive system that keeps running reliably multiple times a day, every day. The Tangle float, at 36 feet, features Rapunzel's braid woven throughout the structure. That was a purely aesthetic choice, but one that required the design team to integrate the visual element into the architecture of the float, rather than just adding it on top. And if you notice it missing or looking a little bit different from time to time, that's actually a window into the reality of daily operation. That braid is one of the most high maintenance pieces of scenery in the entire parade, and it's constantly being rotated through the shop for repairs. The Peter Pan float carries the Jolly Roger pirate ship, complete with smoke effects. It also features a rainbow arc and a swinging anchor mechanism for Captain Hook. That is multiple independent mechanical effects running simultaneously on a single moving platform. And the Little Mermaid float is described as a kinetic seashell music box. The whole surface is designed to move and shimmer, suggesting the constant motion of being underwater. It's the same principle as the Haunted Mansion or the Little Mermaid ride, creating the illusion of an environment through layered visual movement rather than physically being there. And then there's the float that everyone's talking about. Here's what makes the Maleficent float genuinely different from almost anything Disney had built before. It's 52 feet long and 26 feet tall. It breathes fire. It has a spinning wheel dead center and glowing eyes. But none of that is engineering breakthrough. If you were designing a giant fire-breathing creature, how would you make it look? Heavy enough to be scary, but light enough to steer around a corner. That's exactly the engineering challenge Disney faced. Disney Live Entertainment partnered with Tony Award-winning production designer Michael Curry, the same designer behind the puppets in The Lion King on Broadway. Specifically because they didn't want to build a float, they wanted to build a creature. Curry's team designed an articulating chassis, meaning the float's base actually bends and flexes as it moves. Before this, every Disney parade float moved as a rigid unit. The Maleficent dragon moves differently in a curve than it does on a straight section of the route because the chassis itself articulates around the turn. That's also why when a dragon famously caught fire in 2018, Disney didn't just scrap it. They rebuilt it with non-flammable materials and brought it back in 2019. The articulating chassis technology was worth preserving. Think about that the next time you watch the dragon come around the corner near the hub. It's not just rolling, it's moving. The parade ends with a 3-float finale that stretches 90 feet, roughly the length of 9 cars moving as one continuous unit down Main Street. It carries characters from Pinocchio, Fantasia, Dumbo, and Alice in Wonderland, with aerialists swinging above the crowd. It ends with Mickey's airship, a hot air balloon structure that reaches 32 feet tall. One detail most people miss about Minnie Mouse's costume on the airship: her dress alone features dozens of gold lame dots, each sewn individually by hand. That level of cultured craftsmanship at that scale on a vehicle moving Florida heat and humidity every single day is its own kind of engineering challenge. Then there's the music. The score was composed specifically for the parade by Mark Hammond, the same composer behind World of Color at Disney California Adventure. It's not a medley of existing songs stitched together. It's an original composition designed to move with the parade. Each float has its own theme, transitioning as the unit passes your position. If you stand in one spot, which most people usually do, the music tells a story from start to finish. If you move to a different spot, you hear a different version of that same story. Once you start listening for it, you can't unhear it. Here's something most guests never think about. The parade route itself is an engineering decision. The parade starts in Frontierland, near Tiana's Bayou Adventure area, and travels counterclockwise through Liberty Square, around the hub, and down Main Street. That route was specifically designed so guests spread throughout the park can intercept the parade without everyone crowding onto Main Street simultaneously. The timing is calculated so the parade occupies different sections of the park at precise moments. That distributes crowd load and keeps the park flowing even during the performance. Behind the scenes at the parade storage barn is a massive logistic operation, where every float is checked, reset, and verified before the next run. A parade that looks spontaneous from the curb is one of the most precisely scheduled operations in the park. Festival of Fantasy is easy to experience as pure spectacle, but underneath that spectacle is a parade built with Broadway-level production design, mechanical engineering borrowed from theatrical puppetry, and a dragon with a chassis that bends around corners. Next time you watch, find the dragon, watch it move through a turn, and remember that every element you're seeing was designed by someone who spent months figuring out how to make a 52-foot creature feel alive. I'm genuinely curious. Did you realize that Maleficent was a puppet and not a float? Let me know in the comments, and be sure you're subscribed with notifications on, and you'll see me in the next video.